You are walking toward a textile city in the 19th century. You hear it before you fully see it. A continuous mechanical sound carries through the air, dense, repetitive, unbroken. It is not sharp or explosive, but constant, like a pressure that never fully releases. As you move closer, that sound begins to define the space around you. Streets, buildings, and people all seem aligned to it. This city has not grown around a river, a market, or a crossroads. It has grown around factories. As you enter the outskirts, large industrial buildings rise abruptly from the urban fabric. Long brick walls, tall windows, repetitive forms. These structures dominate the skyline without ornament. Their scale immediately outweighs the surrounding housing. The city does not soften their presence. It adapts to it. You notice how everything feels synchronized. Paths funnel workers toward factory gates. Streets widen slightly where crowds must move quickly. Housing clusters close by, pressed against industrial walls. Distance has been minimized not for comfort, but for efficiency. The air feels heavy. Fine fibers float invisibly, mixing with smoke and steam. You sense it in your throat, in the way people breathe shallowly as they walk. Chimneys release steady plumes that drift low before dispersing. This is not an occasional byproduct. It is the atmosphere of daily life. You pass rows of workers' houses built quickly and uniformly. Brick terraces repeat again and again. Windows are small. Interiors are narrow. These homes are not meant to hold stillness. They are meant to hold bodies between shifts. You see how the factory reaches into domestic space. Clothing is shaped by work. Fabric scraps appear everywhere, caught in doorways, piled near walls, reused as rags or padding. The smell of oil, damp fiber, and heat follows people into the streets. The sound of machinery never fully fades. Even where buildings block direct noise, vibration remains. You feel it underfoot, a faint trembling that makes the ground feel alive. The city is not just loud. It is humming. As you walk, you pass a factory entrance as a shift change approaches. Workers gather silently at first, then in dense clusters. There is little conversation. Everyone knows the timing. Sirens or bells will mark the transition. Time here is announced, not observed. You realize that daylight matters less than schedule. The sun may be rising or setting, but the factory does not adjust. Windows glow at odd hours. People move against natural rhythms. Meals, sleep, and rest bend around production. Children appear beside adults, not always as workers, but as part of the flow. They walk routes they know well. They understand where to stand, where to wait. The factory has taught the city its patterns. As you continue walking, it becomes clear that this place functions as a system. Factories produce cloth. Housing produces labor. Streets move bodies between the two. Everything exists to keep the machine running. This is not a city with factories. It is a city that is part of one. As you continue walking, work becomes unavoidable. You move closer to the factories, and the sound grows denser. Inside the buildings, machines operate in long rows, synchronized by belts, shafts, and wheels. You do not see the full interior, but you feel its presence through vibration and rhythm. The city's movement aligns with this pulse. Time here is enforced. You notice clocks mounted high on factory walls, visible from the street. Workers glance at them as they pass. Bells or sirens mark the beginning and end of shifts. These signals are sharp and public. They leave no ambiguity. Everyone hears them. Everyone responds. You walk alongside people heading into work. Their pace is steady and economical. They do not rush unless forced to. Energy must be conserved for long hours of standing, reaching, repeating the same motion thousands of times. The factory reorganizes the body. You see it in posture, shoulders rounded, neck stiff, hands already shaped by routine before the day begins. Movements outside mirror movements inside. Even while walking, gestures are compact and efficient, as if space itself were limited. As you pass an open door, a wave of heat and noise spills out briefly. Inside, rows of looms move continuously. Fabric advances at a fixed speed. Human attention must adapt to the machine, not the other way around. Errors are costly. Slowing down is not an option. You notice how little individuality there is in the process. Workers are positioned where they are needed. Tasks are narrow and repetitive. Skill lies in endurance and precision rather than creativity. The factory rewards consistency above all else. You continue walking and see how shifts overlap. Some workers exit while others enter. The machine never rests. When one body leaves, another replaces it. The city absorbs this exchange without pause. Children appear again, closer to the factory now. Some carry small items. Others wait outside gates. Not all labor happens inside the main halls. Supporting work spreads outward, cleaning, carrying, assisting. The discipline of time extends beyond the factory walls. Meals are eaten quickly. Rest is calculated. Sleep is fragmented. The clock governs everything, even when the factory is out of sight. You pass a group standing silently before entering. There is no ceremony, no speech, just a shared pause before submission to the rhythm inside. This moment repeats every day. As you move on, you realize that repetition is not just a feature of work here. It is the foundation of daily life. The city has been trained to operate like the machines it houses, predictable, synchronized, continuous. As you walk away from the factory gates, you do not leave the factory behind. The workers' neighborhoods are built so close that industrial buildings remain in view from almost every street. Long brick terraces line narrow roads, their uniformity reflecting the discipline of the work they support. These houses were constructed quickly, in large numbers, to hold a labor force that must always be nearby. You notice how compressed these spaces feel. Rooms are small. Yards are rare. Walls are thin. Sound travels easily from one household to the next. The private sphere is limited, not by accident, but by design. Housing here is an extension of the production system. You pass open doors and windows and glimpse interiors shaped by exhaustion and routine. Beds are placed wherever space allows. Tables double as work surfaces. Clothing hangs to dry, stiff with moisture and fiber dust. Everything is arranged for quick use, not comfort. The factory follows people home. You smell it in the air: oil, damp cloth, steam that clings to fabric and hair. Even away from the machines, their presence lingers. The workday does not end cleanly. It fades slowly into domestic life. You notice how families organize themselves around shifts. Some members sleep while others prepare for work. Meals are eaten in stages. Conversations are brief, often interrupted. Time together is fragmented. Children grow up inside this rhythm. They learn early to stay quiet during rest hours. They recognize the sound of approaching shift changes. They understand when a parent will be absent, and for how long. The factory teaches them the structure of the day before school or church ever does. You see women managing households under constant pressure. Cleaning never truly removes the dust. Water is carried, heated, reused. Food is prepared to be filling rather than varied. Every task is shaped by limited time and energy. The neighborhood feels busy, but never relaxed. You pass a small communal space, a yard, a shared corridor, a narrow square between buildings. People gather briefly, exchange information, then disperse. Social life exists, but it is compressed, functional. The factory has redefined intimacy. Privacy is scarce. Silence is valued. Rest becomes a shared resource that must be protected collectively. Neighbors coordinate routines without discussion, learning when to move and when to hold still. As you continue walking, you realize that the boundaries between work and life have almost disappeared. The factory no longer needs to be physically present to exert control. Its schedule, noise, and demands are embedded in the structure of the neighborhood. This is how the city extends the machine beyond its walls. Not through force, but through proximity, repetition, and necessity. As you keep walking, the cost of industrial life becomes more visible. You notice it in bodies before you notice it in buildings. People move with practiced efficiency, but also with restraint. Backs are slightly bent. Movements are economical, conserving energy. Fatigue here is not dramatic. It is constant. The factory reshapes the body over time. You pass workers resting briefly against walls or sitting on low steps between shifts. They do not lie down. Rest is measured and temporary. Muscles must remain ready. Even recovery is structured by the clock. You observe hands closely. Fingers are thickened, joints stiff. Small injuries are common: cuts, burns, abrasions, treated quickly and returned to work. Pain is managed, not eliminated. Long-term health is secondary to immediate endurance. The air contributes to this wear. Fine fibers float invisibly, entering lungs with every breath. Steam raises humidity inside and outside the factories. In colder months, the contrast between heat and cold strains the body further. Coughing is frequent. Voices sound roughened. Breathing is shallow and habitual. Illness spreads easily in these conditions. Housing is dense. Ventilation is poor. When one person falls ill, others soon follow. Yet work continues unless collapse makes it impossible. Absence is costly. Wages are lost. Replacement is easy. You sense how illness becomes part of the background. People do not speak of it unless it interferes with work. A persistent cough, aching joints, dizziness, these are accepted as normal. Only severe symptoms break routine. Children show early signs of this environment. You see them carrying loads that seem too heavy, assisting with tasks that strain growing bodies. Even when not employed directly, they absorb the rhythm and physical demands of industrial life. Rest and play are limited by space and schedule. Medical care exists, but it is minimal. Small clinics or charitable services treat acute cases. Remedies are simple. Advice is brief. Prevention is rarely discussed. The factory requires presence more than health. You notice how the city adjusts its expectations. People measure well-being by attendance, not comfort. Being able to work defines normalcy. Decline is gradual and often unnoticed until it becomes permanent. As you walk, you pass a worker returning home slowly, one arm held close to the body. No one stops him. Not from indifference, but from recognition. This is familiar. Fatigue here is collective. The city has absorbed it into its rhythm. There is no space for recovery that disrupts production. Bodies adapt because they must. And as you continue, it becomes clear that health in this place is not the absence of strain. It is the ability to continue despite it. As you continue walking, the full shape of the city becomes clear. Everything here exists in relation to the factory. Growth, housing, movement, and survival all depend on continuous production. When the machines run, the city functions. When they slow, uncertainty spreads outward through every street. You notice how little of the city operates independently. Shops sell what workers need. Services exist to support labor. Public spaces are limited and utilitarian. There is no alternative center around which life might reorganize. The factory is not one element among others. It is the axis. You pass newer buildings beside older ones, their construction reflecting moments of expansion. Periods of high demand brought rapid growth. Declines left gaps, unfinished structures, repurposed spaces, streets that feel abruptly interrupted. Urban form here responds to output, not long-term planning. The city grows in pulses. Families adapt cautiously. Savings are minimal. Debt is common. Decisions are made around short horizons. Next shift, next wage, next week. The future feels conditional, tied to markets and machines far beyond local control. You see how identity narrows under this system. There is pride in productivity, in reliability, in endurance. But that pride is inseparable from dependence. Status is defined by position in the factory, by consistency, by ability to keep pace. When production thrives, the city breathes easier. When it falters, everything tightens. Children grow up expecting to enter the system. Skills are learned early. Alternatives exist in theory, but distance, cost, and obligation make them remote. Staying becomes the default. As you slow your pace, the factory buildings dominate the view once more. Long walls, tall windows, chimneys releasing steady output. The city appears secondary, arranged around these structures like scaffolding. You realize that this city was never designed to stand apart from industry. It was designed to serve it. And yet, life persists within that constraint. Relationships form. Routines stabilize. Meaning is found not in balance, but in continuity. People adapt to the limits imposed on them. You are walking through a city that does not simply contain machines. It operates as one, an urban extension of the industrial process itself. Not flexible, not free, but functional, as long as the machines keep moving.